Imagine your country is on the verge of collapse, with an annual inflation rate of 211%. Like a miracle cure, in just 12 months, that inflation drops to less than 3% per month, while the economy grows by 2.1%. This is happening right now in Argentina. In this video, we will analyze step by step how Milei is applying an economic formula that seemed impossible. We will see what specific measures are changing the economic course, and if the current sacrifice of millions of Argentinians will really be worth it in the long run. Is Milei's recipe really the antidote that Argentina needed? Can you imagine running a country where prices go up by 25% every single month? This was the reality Milei faced when he became president. Argentina's economy was in such bad shape, people were comparing it to a really sick patient in the ICU. And for good reason. When Javier Milei took charge in December 2023, Argentina was on the verge of economic collapse. Every month, prices were skyrocketing. People's paychecks were losing their value in just a few weeks. As soon as they got paid, people would race to the store to buy things before prices went up again. It was a scary situation. Experts from around the world were predicting that things would get even worse, and that the tough decisions needed to fix things would cause a lot of unrest. Even the most optimistic predictions said the new government only had about 3 months before everything fell apart. Argentina was like a really sick patient that the doctors didn't think would make it. The government was broke. The central bank was in serious debt. Imagine your bank account not only at zero, but owing millions. The country couldn't keep up with its bills, and the government kept spending more and more, like a balloon about to pop. There was a huge difference between the official price of the US dollar and what people were actually paying for it. That's called the blue dollar, and the gap was more than 150%. This wasn't just some random number. It created a black market that was messing up the entire economy. Businesses couldn't figure out their costs, companies couldn't import things, and exporters were holding on to their dollars, waiting for the value to drop. The previous government had tried to fix things by just printing more money and giving it away during the elections to make it seem like things were better than they were. This strategy had just masked the problems and created a ticking time bomb. A lot of respected economists were skeptical of Milei's libertarian ideas. They said his plans wouldn't work in Argentina. Everyone seemed to agree. Turning this situation around seemed impossible. Argentina was stuck in a downward spiral after decades of bad economic decisions. This inherited crisis explains why Milei chose to make drastic changes to the economy. It wasn't because he was mean or didn't care about people, but because it was the only way he saw to avoid even worse problems. Like a doctor who has to amputate a limb to save a patient's life, these measures were going to be painful, but they were necessary to save the country from total collapse. If you're liking this video so far, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more. Let's continue. When Milei started his economic surgery, he had a clear and direct motto: there's no money. While critics expected immediate failure, something happened that Argentina hadn't seen in over a century. The government's finances started showing positive numbers. What nobody expected was that in less than a year, the country would achieve a primary fiscal surplus of 1.7% of GDP, an achievement that seemed impossible when the government took office. Milei's strategy was based on 3 fundamental pillars that he applied with determination from day one: fiscal balance, monetary soundness, and economic liberalization. This formula, although painful, began to show surprisingly quick results. Fiscal balance radically transformed Argentine public management. The government cut ministries in half, froze public works, and eliminated fuel subsidies that had been untouchable for decades, managing to maintain a primary surplus even when tax revenues decreased due to the economic contraction. This spending control allowed the implementation of the second pillar: monetary soundness. The central bank stopped printing money to finance the treasury, breaking a decades-long inflationary cycle. The system of controlled devaluation of 2% per month stabilized the exchange rate and anchored inflationary expectations that had caused so much damage. With finances more organized, the government moved forward with the third pillar: market liberalization. They eliminated stifling regulations like in the rental market and partially deregulated international trade, laying the foundation for more dynamic economic growth that is less dependent on the state. The support of the International Monetary Fund consolidated this strategy. The new agreement not only provided economic stability, but also allowed the refinancing of external debt under more favorable conditions, relieving pressure on public finances. The most surprising thing has been the social reaction. Despite the immediate pain of these austerity measures, the government has maintained approval ratings close to 50%, suggesting that a good portion of Argentines are willing to endure short-term difficulties in the hope of achieving lasting economic stability. The results were not long in coming. Inflation began to subside, and the country risk, although still high, abandoned the levels of imminent default, showing positive signs much earlier than experts had predicted. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos. Let's continue. Numbers don't lie. Surprising economic results. The indicators showed positive signs and revealed a reality that no one dared to imagine. While experts predicted years of economic suffering, Argentina experienced a growth of 2.1% year-on-year. Could it be that the model that everyone considered economic suicide is working against all odds? The story of Maria, a small business owner from Cordoba, reflects this surprising reality. After years of struggling to keep her business afloat, she is now hiring new staff. And it's not an isolated case. Argentina has more people working today than at any other time in its recent history, something that completely contradicts the narrative of a country in deep recession. Behind these numbers, there are a series of trends that are changing the Argentine economic landscape. Private consumption grew by 2.8% compared to the same period last year, debunking the theory that inflation fell because people stopped spending. Argentines are buying more, not less. This confidence is perfectly reflected in investment, which increased by 11.3% in the last quarter. Entrepreneurs are betting their money on the future of Argentina, something that hasn't happened in a long time. Simultaneously, GDP grew by 1.4% over the previous quarter, making the Argentine economy larger than before Milei took office. Most notably, these achievements are happening while inflation falls from levels close to hyperinflation to less than 3% per month. This combination was precisely what traditional economists considered impossible. International recognition has not been long in coming. The Bank of Spain, a serious institution with no political interest in Milei's success, has recognized significant progress in the Argentine economy, highlighting that the adjustment plan has managed to reduce inflation while economic activity is beginning to recover. This change is changing the perception of Argentines themselves. According to the latest polls, 41% of citizens say that the economy of their city is improving, compared to just 25% in 2023. Consumer confidence has also improved significantly. What explains this phenomenon? Monetary stability, fiscal balance, and economic liberalization are generating a virtuous circle. Low inflation allows for long-term planning, fiscal balance reduces uncertainty about future taxes, and the elimination of excessive regulations is allowing previously stifled sectors to start growing. But there's another side to this story: the social cost of recovery. It seems not all that glitters is gold in this economic recovery. While the economic reports celebrate victories, on the streets of Buenos Aires, a retiree confesses, "We've always struggled, but now things are even tougher." This contradiction raises an uncomfortable question. Is there really an economic miracle when 53% of Argentinians can't afford their basic needs? The Argentina of statistics and the Argentina of the streets seem like two different countries. Like two sides of the same coin, while indicators show improvements, poverty has grown to 53% during the first half of 2024, especially affecting children and teenagers. Behind these numbers are real faces: families choosing between paying bills or putting food on the table, retirees watching their pensions evaporate in the face of the rising cost of living. "My electricity bill used to be 5,000 pesos. Now it's 20,000. My pension barely covers my medications," says Maria, a 72-year-old woman from La Matanza. Her story is repeated in millions of homes where purchasing power has plummeted, especially during the first months of Milei's government, when inflation reached astronomical levels. The removal of subsidies, although key to fiscal balance, has caused an earthquake in household budgets. Bills multiplied by 3 or 4 have left many middle and low-income families with no wiggle room. 35% of Argentinians struggle daily to afford basic food, while 69% believe it is a bad time to find a job. It's like surgery without anesthesia. Those who support this model argue that this pain is necessary to heal the chronic ills of the Argentine economy. The question that divides the country is, how much suffering is acceptable and for how long? The debate intensifies when analyzing who bears the brunt of it. While some sectors see improvements, the vulnerable continue to sink into poverty. "My son dropped out of college because we can't afford the bus fare. says Carlos, a metalworker from Cordoba. We used to barely make ends meet. Now we can't even do that. However, rays of hope appear amidst the shadows. Wages are beginning to show timid signs of recovery, and formal employment is gradually growing. The big question is time. How much longer will Argentinians have to wait to feel this recovery in their pockets? The answer will determine not only the economic success of the model, but also its political and social viability. The road ahead, challenges and lessons for the future. Beyond the patience of its citizens lies the puzzle that could define Argentina's future. How will Milei transform a country with decades of structural problems when 69% of Argentines believe it's impossible to find work and the deepest reforms haven't even begun? The achieved macroeconomic stabilization is just the first step on a long road. Argentina, the patient, has overcome the initial crisis, but now faces a full rehabilitation that will take years. Here appears the first major outstanding challenge, the currency control. This system of exchange restrictions continues to limit capital flow and complicate foreign investment. Its removal is necessary for growth, but requires decisive surgery, freeing the economy without causing a financial hemorrhage that destabilizes the peso and reignites the inflation that has been so hard to control. On the horizon lurks an even greater challenge, the $44 billion debt with the International Monetary Fund. The critical maturities of 2025 represent a time bomb for the Argentinian economy. Without successful renegotiation or new agreements, Argentina could return to the brink of default, losing all the progress made. This scenario makes international relations invaluable. Milei's closeness to Trump and Musk can become a valuable bargaining chip. A possible return of Trump to the White House could facilitate more favorable terms with the IMF, while the support of figures like Musk could attract foreign investment when Argentina desperately needs fresh capital. The IMF itself has expressed concern about the social impact of austerity, warning that budget cuts should not disproportionately affect working families. The balance between fiscal discipline and social stability will be crucial to maintaining the surprising popular support for the government, which remains around 50% despite the radical adjustment program. The profound transformation of Argentina requires structural reforms in three critical areas. The tax system so complex that it stifles business activity, the labor market whose rigidity hinders the creation of formal employment, and the historically unsustainable pension scheme. Without these modifications, Argentinian competitiveness will remain compromised, and any economic growth will be short-lived. What lessons can we learn from this economic experiment? First, that both in a country's economy and in our personal finances, ignored problems eventually require more painful solutions. Financial discipline is essential. Second, that temporary adjustments, although difficult, can create the conditions for sustainable prosperity if maintained with consistency and determination. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos. Let's continue. Looking at Argentina's situation, we find a strange reality. Even though the big economic numbers look good, many people aren't feeling this recovery yet. Poverty going up to 53% in the first half of 2024 shows that there's been a big cost for people. The Bank of Spain has said that Argentina is doing better at lowering inflation and balancing its budget. But the real goal is to make sure these improvements help people in their everyday lives. This economic experiment shows that big changes mean some tough times for a while. If similar changes were happening where you live, how would you get your finances ready? Is this short-term pain worth it in the end? Tell us what you think in the comments.